just being yourself is often enough for other people to see that it's okay to be themselves. And as I've grown in a leader over the last several years and been put in leadership, more and more leadership positions, I've realized how important that actually is, to be authentic.
Welcome to the third episode of our storytelling miniseries. I'm your host, Sylvia Oakland, and today's episode is all about telling your story with authenticity, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Whether you're in a boardroom or at a networking event, making your story resonate is key. It means tailoring your story to your audience while staying true to who you are. Andrea Fletcher, Chief of Digital Strategy at the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, let her authenticity shine during a presentation at a conference. Inspired by Andrea's confidence, women from the back of the room thanked Andrea just for being herself.
I was the only woman in the series of presentations. That the next time we came back and there was another woman up there, she was super confident, and just seeing other women in spaces where you are and being yourself is key. It's key to all of this. It lets other women in particular know that they are welcome here and they can be themselves, especially if you're in a leadership position.
Being yourself when others are complimenting you is an incredible feeling. But what about when you're not doing so great? When you've made a mistake or took on more than you can manage? Jothi Dugar, CISO at NIH, knows the feeling.
I was going through a pretty difficult period in my personal life several years ago, and I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna be that perfect leader, and then I'm not gonna say anything, but I'm just gonna plow through it. And my team could see she's not really herself, but we don't want to ask, but at some point I'm like, okay, I just broke down. I'm like, okay, team, this is what's going on in my personal life, and I know I am not my 100%, but I will be there for you guys, but I need some help. And they're like, oh my gosh, thank you, you finally showed that you're human, because we were like, how is she doing this? But we could tell she's not 100%. And thank you so much for letting us in. We got this. Tell us what you need. And they just kind of ran with whatever they needed to lead. And I think they also felt empowered to be leaders themselves.
The fear of failure is natural, and so is failing in and of itself, according to Andrea and Jothi. Mistakes are the building blocks for your career, and talking about them is okay. As Andrea said, failure is inevitable.
So you have to fail a couple times in order to get that right. I've had failures where I completely acted the wrong way, and it took a couple of them, hopefully failing small early rather than big later. But, the higher up the ladder you get, the bigger your failures get. So a lot of failure to me is it's experience. It's growth and taking those lessons and using them the next time you fail, because you're going to fail again.
I don't really look at anything that have happened for me in my career, in my personal life, as a mistake or a failure per se. I feel like those things had to happen, but it's what I did with those experiences, what I learned from them, and how I took that forward that I think really matters to me. And I would urge everyone, not just women out there, to not look at things as a failure per se. But you took a chance, something happened. Maybe it didn't go to your expectations. It doesn't make it a failure or something you shouldn't have done. It's more like never let a good crisis go to waste. So what can you do with that crisis to help you move forward in life?
Sometimes what stops us isn't the fear of failure. It's the fear of being the first. Being one of few women in your industry can feel intimidating and overwhelming. This fear of being the first shouldn't stop you, Jothi said. She advises women to go after what they want, even if that means creating it themselves.
It's okay to be the first person to try something new. And I've done that pretty much most of my life. I was the only girl in my electrical engineering class, probably one of the only Indian American girls there. Then I got into technology. So I pretty much kind of followed the male-dominated fields. I don't know why, but just ended up being that way.
That's what you're called to do.
And even in the space, making it my own. It's just the power of just asking for what you want, even when you can be the first person to start something. You don't have to be the person to finish it, but at least to get it going. It's okay if it doesn't exist.
Sometimes not every part of your story will be relevant. Andrea talked about her time in Africa, one that she's extremely grateful for, and how the difficult and uncomfortable parts of that experience made her a better storyteller.
I feel personally like I kind of gloss over some of that part of my career. But that experience has made me so much better when I came back to work domestically in the U.S. at working with stakeholders here. Because I know how to work with stakeholders. I know how to get a room of people together to move forward on something or make a decision. And part of where that came from was being somebody who was an outsider or who didn't look like everyone else in the room. And that made me more aware of how other people were speaking or what their incentives were.
Being authentically you can feel scary, especially as your deadlines and new responsibilities come your way. Jothi and Andrea remind women to take things one day at a time. Being authentic means being vulnerable, and that also takes time.
It is okay to not have everything all the time, all together, and do it all. Like, it is impossible. You're a human, and be a human, and ask others for help when you need it, and prioritize what's important and what's not important, and start at the top of that list.
One thing that I've also learned is to meet people where they are, especially when it comes to vulnerability sharing or being authentic, meeting people, understanding like where the other person is on their journey, and then sharing, being comfortable in sharing a little bit to their level, maybe not to the level that you would like to be with them, but starting from where they are and then kind of moving deeper or higher.